Wapa-doo, yaboppy-doo, do. Another John Cena themed episode today for you guys. We're never going to be able to get through this intro.
No, that was wonderful. That is the intro. I mean, let's go with it.
Love it. Another John Cena themed episode for you guys
just need Paul
today.
Heyman in the back.
I know, right? Somebody... What did he call him? Grandmaster Slimy or whatever? His Grandmaster Slimy.
I don't know. That's one of the funniest moments I think I've had in wrestling in the last 3-4 years. Was Paul Heyman do. I think that might be my wife's funniest moment.
It was pretty good. So another John Cena.
Oh boy.
We're keeping it all in, folks. Another John Cena-themed episode for you guys today. If you didn't catch the last one, we did just kind of a little bit of some fun stuff that we would have wanted John Cena to do during his retirement. But today we're going to get a little bit more specific with it. Today is our top 5, with some honorable mentions, of course, rivalries that we want to see either renewed or started during John Cena's retirement year. So this could be anybody in the WWE, anybody possibly in TNA or in AEW, or in whomever may or may not come over in the next year. And it's just who we would like to see, and we're going to rank it. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler for mine, or at least for the last episode, right? So I talked heavily about how the one thing I want to see is John Cena win the Intercontinental Championships, the one title outside of course, like any NXT stuff, that he has not won in the WWE. And so since I have gone so in-depth with that in the last episode, that is simply just going to be an honorable mention on this list. I do not think I need to waste any more time talking about that. That is the one thing I definitely want to happen, so obviously it'd be my number one if I didn't already talk about it. But I did want to put that out there, that is exactly what I would want for my honorable mention. But regardless, that's the theme of the video today. So let us know who you guys want John Cena to face, and who do you think out of the two of us has the more entertaining list. So we're going to start with our honorable mentions, Dan. Yep. So obviously I already said my first one, Intercontinental Championship. I'll expand a little bit on it just to get a little more specific. Ideally for me, it'd be either Braun Breaker at the time or Ilya Dragunov at the time. Those are two guys I'd really like to see kind of go at it with John. Obviously Breaker for obvious reasons, just being a monster, and that kind of being a hill that John Cena needs to climb and figure out his way. I personally would prefer it be Ilya Dragunov. One, just because I don't think John Cena should be the guy that dethrones a Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker. And number two, I think it'd be really, really interesting for John Cena to kind of be in the ring with a guy that probably will remind him a lot of himself in terms of just pure in-ring grit and not giving up kind of thing. And just seeing oh boy.
Hand the towel over to him.
Yeah, exactly. Just buddy. The whole... that would be a lot of fun. And I don't think it would hurt Ilya nearly as much as it may hurt like a Breaker or something like that to lose to John Cena. So, again, if I had to pick one, it'd be Dragunov. But regardless, Cena needs to win the Intercontinental Championship. That's my first honorable mention. And what do you say for your first honorable mention?
My first honorable mention is Seth Rollins. Going back, I'm going to have a little bit of a theme to a lot of my picks, mentions, and stuff as far as more of a historical context. Him and Seth, they had some really good runs together, different matches. One of the biggest being the Seth winning, being double champ there for a little bit, getting the U.S. title from Cena.
Good old champ.
But then, of course, he got hurt that same year and a couple months later, so, we all know that story. But, I think Seth would be fun. Cena won a majority of those matches, especially when you look at PLEs or pay-per-views, back when it was kind of, when they were going on, technically they were pay-per-views, but when you're looking back at PLEs, Cena's a little, the matchups favored Cena more, he won more of those. I think it could be an interesting way to even set up, I know it's not the championship that Cena won, but since it's all technically a main championship, world championship, in that, since it's still held in that regard, I think that could be an interesting way to give him a 17th championship. at the same time by putting him in a short feud with Seth.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I could definitely see that. I will be talking about how I think John Cena's rivalry with a world championship will go a little bit later on. So awesome to get that shout out here. My second honorable mention is going to be the phenomenal AJ Styles. It's one of the few actual rivalries that he's already had that is going to be on my list at all. I obviously have a couple. But mostly I tried to kind of think of more unique, not necessarily more unique, that's not the right way to say it, but just stuff that he hasn't done before that I'd like to see before he goes. And so for me, I think AJ is not going to make the top 5 just because we have already seen the best of what those two can do against one another. Though that rivalry was some of AJ's best work, which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
And that was... I personally think that was Cena's best set of matches of his career. I think that his in-ring work, his athleticism, and obviously his ability to carry a main event match still at that time was in a perfect spot against a perfect opponent, and they told a perfect story, especially in that last SummerSlam match that they had. Yeah. So we've already seen the best that they're going to offer. This would basically just be a kind of old rivals doing it one more time type thing, and so that just doesn't quite make the list for me. But it is still something I'd like to see before it goes.
Yeah, he makes my list. I have a couple things I'll mention about that rivalry.
Yeah.
When we get to him my list, but he actually makes my top 5. So
yeah, makes sense.
Second of mine is for honorable mention is Roman. I think that's again, I think that was a huge turning point for Roman to be like, the suffered succotash. Like everybody's always gonna remember that about Roman, no matter Hopefully we remember the title reign, the 1,316 days, a whole lot more than Suffer and Succotash, but that's still going to be in one of those, early promos about, remember Roman was like this, but now he's like this.
Yep.
And I've always, I've always found it bad for Roman from that, but I mean, I think it'd be fun to almost do those two, I'd like to see Roman get past like all the bloodline stuff and, I don't know. This one is hard. Because it's like he's in all that, he's likely going to be in a lot of bloodline stuff. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think, as two faces, I think that could be a very entertaining, very Cena thank you type of match.
Sure, and Cena's gone out publicly and said that he believes that Roman Reigns is the greatest of all time. You could think that what you will, you could agree or disagree. That's all subjective anyway. But, I'm sure that that's something that Cena would probably want. Before he goes, like, hey, if I'm going to wrestle for the last time, I might as well wrestle.
Maybe his retirement match?
Could be, yeah, could be the retirement match. So that's not a bad one at all. Only reason it doesn't make my honorable mentions or my top 5. Again, we've just seen it. I've seen it in multiple iterations.
And Roman won both matches.
And Roman won all of them. So it's kind of like, well, he's going to win again. Like, this is weird. So,
right.
I can understand. But again, it's going to be in an even different context than what we've seen already.
Yeah.
Like you said, face versus face. And he's still, like, the tribal chief version of himself. So he's not that big dog, can't cut a promo, scared to death to open his mouth type deal because you never know what's going to happen, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Third honorable mention for me is Joe Hendry. Unfortunately, he's not going to be appearing in my spare bedroom here. That would be very, very terrifying. But yeah, so Joe Hendry... he has already gone out publicly and told stories about how much John Cena has meant to him and how he's trying to emulate John Cena's career. And Moose, who is another guy that I hope, now that he's lost the TNA World title, to Nick Nemeth, who, congratulations, the former Dolph Ziggler is now TNA World Champion.
Very nice. Very nice for him.
Is a guy that I hope we'll start to hear that music play on NXT here and start to get some Moose appearances on NXT. I would love that.
Wow.
But, I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, he's ridiculous. Regardless, Moose has said that he believes that Joe Hendry is the next John Cena. He is a current-day version of what John Cena can be. Fans love him. Kids love him. He's obviously got a John Cena type build to him.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty simple moveset that everybody can follow, but he's strong as an ox. Like he's and to me, I think that that's too many John Cena coincidences to happen all at once for me to not put this on my honorable mentions. The only reason it's not in my top 5, the realistic possibility that WWE is going to not waste, that's not the right term, but it's gonna risk John Cena either going to TNA and doing this with Joe Hendry, or having Joe Hendry, who still works for TNA, either on the main roster wrestling John, or John Cena going down to NXT and still not wrestling an NXT superstar.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of moving parts. Now, I would personally like to see it. I'm sure there's a lot of fans that would love to see it as well. I just think realistically it probably won't happen.
Right.
But again, it's one that I would love to see.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too, I meant to mention at the top, is we get a year of Cena, and it's not going to be every week. He said 30 to 40 appearances, so I got to imagine that's not going to be 30 to 40 matches.
No.
It's going to be a lot of setting up, talking, contract signings, what have you. A couple, Royal Rumble appearance, counted as one of that, as that too and stuff. But so I'm very curious to see if we get just a lot of one-offs, or if we get just two or three really good stories, or a little of both. But Hendry's an interesting one to me, to where it's like, he definitely is emulating him and is modeling himself after him. Where that would be fun. I mean, I'd throw that in another one. That'd be a fun retirement match, maybe, for Cena.
Yeah.
To put someone over like that's claiming that's been called, wants to be the next Cena. And I think you could do that on any brand, honestly.
Sure.
It's maybe you have a Netflix crossover special of maybe Raw and TNA or something.
And by the way, this is a little bit out of the realm of the video, but did you see something about Raw being on Sci-Fi for the next couple of weeks? Do you have any idea? Olympics. That makes so much sense.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I saw that online and I was like, what happened? Because
I think SmackDown or not SmackDown, but NXT is also on Sci-Fi. For
that makes sense. Okay, fair enough.
Because of Olympics. So I mean, it's, I guess, one of the only, because Universal owns NBC and all that, and USA, and I think Sci-Fi is owned by them too, but it's like the one that they probably won't have Olympics on. So it's like, wrestling.
Yeah, fair enough.
So hope everybody has a YouTube TV subscription or something, because I don't know how you get that without expensive cable package.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Watch on Hulu the next day, hopefully. Hopefully that one will be on Hulu the next day.
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with that when it goes to Netflix. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will. My third honorable mention, The Rock.
Why not?
I don't know if WrestleMania 40 doesn't happen with those two confronting each other, I don't know if he makes my list, but because of the possibility it exists, I think it'd be fun. Again, this kind of falls into, I think, even more like the Roman one, what you're saying of, does it really fit in the stories that are going on right now? Is it, how hard is it? Rock's not going to exactly wrestle like ton. We probably get a WrestleMania and maybe one other match next year, depending on how the storyline shakes out.
Right.
But we might only get a WrestleMania, and that's either going to be reserved for Cody or Roman. So it's, the possibility of this happening, but I mean, the chance that it could happen, or at least a confrontation, or like a promo off or something. I mean, I'd take something. Just, writing off, kind of like what I said with Roman, is like Rock's like, Cena, thank you thanks for the couple battles we had, in my brief appearances coming back from Hollywood, and
sure,
I don't know. I think you could do a lot of fun things with that too. Maybe like I said, maybe not even have a match, maybe just an appearance.
Yeah, certainly can. I wouldn't hate to see that match again. Even at this point in both their careers, obviously it was electric when they faced off at Mania. But it does not make my list, and I think it's because it's actually the opposite of your perspective, which you had said if they didn't have that face off at Mania, this may not make your list. I think because they had that face off at Mania, it does not make my list. I think we got that kind of final. Now, obviously, it's a little bit unfortunate for Cena because he got bamboozled, but hey, whatever. It is what it is.
At the
end of the day, who cares? Like, nobody is going to remember that for that part, and they're going to remember it for Cody winning and for The Undertaker showing up and for all the chaos. So, it doesn't make my list, but again, none of these are stuff that I would not want to see. Although this one may be something that many people don't want to see. This next honorable mention, and my last honorable mention, I may be the only one who has at least the confidence in my own creativity to make this story work. not only do I think that this would be a good rivalry just by itself, but I actually think, now I'm not going to get into it here because we only have so much time, but I actually think that I, in my mind, could create a good story in which this person not only beats John Cena, but takes the Intercontinental Championship away from John Cena after he beats Ilya Dragunov after a few months, and that is Karrion Kross. I know he's so boring. I know. But I think that if this story is told correctly, now that's a big if because it ain't been, but if it's told correctly, I think you can build Karrion Kross as the leader of this terrifying, dominant faction enough to where not even Superman can beat Karrion Kross. Because Karrion Kross, he's not bald anymore, but he reminds me a lot of like the kind of DC Justice League animated series version of Lex Luthor, where he just injects himself with steroids and he fights people and he gets angry, but he's also really smart.
Not great, but never goes away.
Right. So it's like, oh my god, like, go away, dude. And he just wants all this power, and he'll do anything he can, and anything on the planet to get it. I think you can tell a story like that, where it's Lex Luthor versus Superman, realistically speaking, and not only is it Lex Luthor versus Superman, but it's Lex Luthor and then the AOP and just anybody, like, the numbers game will just be too much that not even John Cena can overcome. Now, you can tell the story of in his younger years, maybe Cena would have overcome it, but it's getting to that time, and he's not quite able to get there. And I think that, for goodness sakes, just give the man something. Like, let the man have something. Anything of positivity so that his career just doesn't fizzle out of nothingness, right? And again, I have enough confidence in my creativity that I think I can tell a story in my head that makes sense. Now, whether the WWE can also tell that story and whether it's executed by Karrion Kross enough that even John Cena can't give him a rub to make anybody care, that remains to be seen. But I think that it could be good. So I'm putting it on my list with the risk of it looking like absolute dog water here in a few months. But
I think it could be interesting. I kind of, when you were saying, and I meant to say this too when you mentioned the IC title on your honorable mentions, I think in the way the IC title could be fun to where Cena wins something like that in like the Elimination Chamber and then then loses it to like a Breaker or a Dragunov to help put one of them over.
Yeah, you could do that too.
And then maybe you put the U.S. title on Cena and he gets one last U.S. title open challenge and Karrion Kross comes out to answer that one and he gets the title and you finally put Kross over and it's like, oh, this is what Kross can do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if there's like you said, if there's anybody left to give Kross a really good rub, it's Cena. And if Cena can't, then, well, might become the cut bosses. But I think it could be intriguing. I think you could do a lot of different things. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Again, I understand I'm risking my rather...
Risking your reputation here.
Yeah, my rather auspicious reputation for getting good things here. But you know what? I believed in Karrion Kross in NXT. I think most of us did. And I still think that he's capable of doing more. Yeah. Now, again, whether people take it seriously or not, no matter what he does, I don't know. But that's not up to me to decide. That's up to everybody else. So.
I mean, apparently he's staying with the company, and even though Bobby and his faction beat him, Bobby's leaving. So, I guess take that for what that's worth.
I know. Yeah, it's
the match that we won't speak of from WrestleMania, like the only one big sore spot from WrestleMania.
Yep. I agree.
My last one is Cody Rhodes.
Sure.
But I thought about putting him on my list, and even like doing a couple other things, I was like, man, maybe I should sub him out for someone else on my list. But I was like, I think most of my honorable mentions I guess mentioned is like, it'd be cool. I just don't think it's going to happen. Because I think this would be the perfect, you're the new face. Here's the face that's been on his way out, but still the name attached. I think Rhodes represents so much out of the ring that Cena has.
Yep.
And we've talked about this before in other podcasts, to where, Cena's, I mean, not Cena, but Rhodes is just, he has all this goodwill. He stays after, he comes out, comes to the ring, signs stuff. He does so much outside of the ring to where it's like, it's almost like a spit image of Cena. And it's like, be a fun way to be like, here you go. It's, this has been pretty much yours, but now it's officially yours, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm going to say this just based on, again, reputation. Cody is not on my list anywhere, and I felt like dirty. I feel like I've sinned. Like, I don't know, like how could I not include my current favorite wrestler on this list? But for me, I think the only two stories that you can tell with Cody and Cena is Cena just really wants to fight Cody, but Cody doesn't have the belt, and he just wants to fight him out of respect for him, which I wouldn't mind that. I mean, that's fine.
Yep.
Or 17th world title. That's
right.
Those are the only two stories I think you can tell. And while those promos, I'm sure, would be epic, because I literally cannot see a universe in which it isn't outside of a stroke in the middle of it. Like, there's, although that would be epic for a whole other reason, I guess, terrible reasons, but I just can't see a world where that program is not great if it happens. I just think it would have to be really shoehorned for it to happen. I mean, you've got two guys that are just mega baby faces. They stand for the same exact things at this point. It would just be kind of wonky.
The only other thought I had too with this is, if you ever wanted to turn Cody heel,
which I think would just be criminally stupid.
I mean, some people are talking. It's being out there because it's like, how much can you last as a babyface champ? But,
some people are criminally stupid, man. I don't know what to tell you.
And I'm like, he can be his good guy persona and still have the championship, and maybe that means he loses and gets, he actually accumulates a few world titles instead of having a long reign. He loses it but gets it back, loses it, gets it back, like good babyface should do. Sure. But I feel if you wanted to pull a trigger on testing the water with him as a heel, Cena could be a good one to do that with. But it would almost, the way so many storylines are, as you were alluding to, this would have to be like towards the end of next year. It would have to be like SummerSlam Survivor Series next year for this to probably really happen. Yeah, I agree. Well, it is about that time. So I'm going to go like this. Bam and bam. Right over there on both sides of the screen, you're going to now see our honorable mentions, so you can kind of follow along. Everything's going to be up there, so as our list goes, you'll be able to kind of see everything. And that way, if you need to take a screenshot to make fun of us, you'll have it all nice and easy for you. But my number 5 for the rivalries that I would like to see is the NXT champion. Now, obviously, that can be any number of individuals. So to try and make it a little more specific, ideally for me, Trick Williams would win the title back, and he would be the one that Cena challenges to an NXT championship match. Reasons, well, obviously, Cena has never won anything in NXT, nor should he have, of course. But I think it would be a fun kind of couple of month period if Cena were to be in NXT in front of that really hot crowd that he quite frankly hasn't really experienced in his career. Yeah. Outside of, I think he's had a couple of one-off appearances. I know he had a one-off.
He did have a match with Damian Sandow, I think, at one point in NXT.
And then he was in someone's corner.
I think it was Carmelo Hayes. Yes.
Okay, because
versus Braun Breaker,
right? Because the Bloodline was in Breaker's corner.
Yes, yeah. Which, boy, how far have we come with that? But anyway, but there's already a story there with him and Trick. Trick's kind of face turn and solo turn came on the heels of him talking to John Cena and Cena giving him advice on how to know when his time is now. Which obviously is one of Cena's catchphrases. It was a whole thing, right?
Right.
And so there's already a rivalry, not a rivalry, but there's already a story there with him. Now you could very easily do like an all ego Ethan Page and just have it be face versus heel and something like that. But I just like the idea of Trick losing it to Cena, and then Cena losing it to Obafemi.
Oh man!
Just an unconquerable monster. And because look, you don't want Obafemi to just destroy everyone in NXT, because then NXT looks like a pile of schlubs. So if he destroys John Cena, it does great for his career, and it helps the other guys in NXT because he's not destroying them.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. So
sounds like another retirement match.
I mean, yeah,
possibility.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where like Cena's like, wow, like I can't believe I've won one of the few championships I've never won, and I'm really excited to see like all these young studs that step up, like Javon Evans and all these guys. I'm really excited. And then just that monster shows up, and he's like, "You will not go very far. I will destroy your face," and just like. Like, I am the one mountain you can't climb. And he said that to Wes Lee the other day in a promo, and I thought that was great. And he literally said, like, you are built. The mountains that you have had to climb to get back here are admirable, but I am the one mountain that you can't climb. And then guess what? He was the one mountain that he couldn't climb.
Yeah.
There you go. So I would love to see that. That'd be my ideal booking. But regardless of what the ideal situation may or may not be, I think John Cena should win the NXT Championship. Or at the very least, compete for one. Maybe he doesn't necessarily have to win it, but I think it would be a slight disservice if he didn't do NXT at all. I would like to see him at least have one match. I was going to say at a TakeOver just out of habit, but at a NXT PLE.
Right.
Whatever that may be.
Right. And as
I did not mean to rhyme all that. NXT, PLE, whatever that may be.
In WWE.
In
WWE. Grief. Off the rails tonight, folks. And I just said folks. Oh, my word.
Hey, folks are watching out
Showing
there.
my age.
What are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing here.
What I'm thinking, too, as you were talking about the NXT Championship, I think it could be a fun, or at least, and actually, I don't want to use the word fun, an entertaining storyline for the fans. And I think Cena would do it. Is him being like, okay, I'm challenging for this championship. Lose. I'm challenging for this championship. Lose. Hey, NXTers, I'm coming down to pay a visit, hang out a couple weeks, finally challenge for the NXT Championship. Lose. And like his crowning one is like getting his and then he finally gets a championship, and it happens to either be the IC or his 17th world title. As a kind of a bookend of that whole long-term story. But then I think, and I feel like you could satisfy the fans that want a long-term story for him for his last year. And I think you could also satisfy the people who want a bunch of one-offs with a bunch of, let's have as many people as possible as we can in the ring with him over this year. But then it'd be fun. I think that would be an easy way to get done at NXT and, say, okay, well, I haven't had that championship. Let's go down for that one. So I think it'd be cool. Kind of merge there with you.
I got you. Dropping stuff.
My number 5, we just mentioned him, Carmelo Hayes. He was in his corner, and obviously Hayes is more of a heel now again. But I was really just looking at this because, like, what young talent could maybe benefit from him, and kind of going what I was just saying about Cena, just kind of maybe losing chance to chance. Carmelo Hayes has put on a lot of good matches since he's come up to the main roster, but he's lost. But he's lost to really good people. Really good wrestlers.
That match with Andrade last week was fantastic.
Oh man, that was so good. And I hope we kind of get a couple more matches with him. Hope we get a little bit of a story with them or something.
Yeah.
Hope that wasn't just a one-off. But in that regard, I feel like Hayes might be kind of, I could see Hayes kind of being built as he keeps losing these quality matches, and maybe that's one of John's. I'm thinking this is one of Cena's first storylines where it's like, he loses a couple matches, but they're good matches, they're good opponents. Cena comes over to SmackDown, and Hayes is like, I know you're in my corner, but that hasn't done anything for me since you've been in my corner. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean even if it's not Carmelo Hayes, the idea of just Cena gets in the ring with some young upstart and just has a fantastic match. I mean, obviously Hayes, there's story there. A lot of the reasons why I wanted him to fight Trick, I mean, literally they were this exact same story. So like, duh, it's you can make that connection easily. But that makes a lot of sense. I would love to see that as well. I personally am just not as big a fan of Carmelo Hayes as most people. He just doesn't do it for me. And it's not even in ring. In ring, I think he's great. Just the character,
the character is weird, the best. But that's why I kind of almost like this too, is because it's like, again, kind of we were talking about Karrion Kross. I mean, obviously different types of wrestlers between Kross and Hayes, but at the same time, if Cena can't push a guy like Hayes over, they need to change up a shtick soon.
Yeah, and again, it's funny because every time I hear Carmelo Hayes come out and they say from Boston, Massachusetts, I always go like, how do I not like you? Like, I'm from there. Like, how like, what happened?
I don't think I knew you was from there until the other day, too. I don't know if I just always missed that whenever he's been announced, or I'm just like, because it hit me, I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know why. I just, it's like, I almost have like a connection, like, even just at my job, like, I'll be talking to somebody and I'll hear the accent and I'll go, oh, I'm going to get a sale out of this guy. And then I almost always do. Like, it just always ends up happening.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we could have a battle for Boston between the two.
Yeah, they are both from Boston.
And make sure that match happens in the TD Garden.
Oh man, that would be interesting.
That'd be way too
Let's go, Mello. Cena sucks. Oh no.
Well, why? I don't think we'll get any Cena sucks chance in this. And maybe this is just a random thought that I just had too. And so if you're gonna touch on maybe this somewhere in one of your opponents, I apologize. Sure. Do we get a heel Cena at all in his last year?
No.
I
just
he
don't.
He talked about, man, I had this when he was on Van Vliet a couple months ago. He talked about like what he was trying to do, what he tried to pitch. It just didn't quite work out, and I'm just like, can we get a quick little heel run with him?
So I'm gonna entertain the thought, just for a thought experiment purposes, and then I'm gonna tell you why I still wouldn't do it at the end. I think the only way you get a Cena heel turn is if you kind of mentioned this kind of story a little earlier where he's challenging for all these championships and he keeps on losing, right? Mm-hmm. And then we start to kind of see like he's starting to become broken, and not in the broken Matt Hardy kind of way, but like the positivity robot is starting to malfunction. Where he's like starting to kind of drift off into space and lose his thought on the mic, and he's like, oh, sorry. And then he just keeps talking, but he keeps saying the same things, but it's almost like he doesn't believe it anymore.
Right.
And then one day he's so desperate to win a match that he like kind of cheats a little bit. Like, and it's not even a whole lot, he just kind of grabs the tights or something. And it's like a super slow burn until finally, like, you get, like, the chair shot that wins him the 17th world title. And he, like, the Superman has turned into Bizarro, and he's just the complete opposite of everything he stands for. He's, never give up. He always gives up. He always runs away. He, hustle, loyalty, and respect. He doesn't show up ever, and, he misses title matches that he's scheduled to be at. Like, you would have to go so far into left field that it would probably take a year just for that full story to tell. And yeah, look, that would be so much fun, but I just think at this point, like, you really have to start shoehorning it in right now, and it'd be choppy. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense given how they announced. Like, if they wanted to start it with that, like, if they wanted to start it at Money in the Bank, he would have cut a completely different promo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have just had to be completely different. But now it's like, all right, who wants some? Let's get it. Like, he's already kind of away from that. Now, those are some of the reasons why I wouldn't do it, just because it would take too long. But if for some reason we had to shoehorn it in, I would not mind if, again, they have to book it right. But can you imagine, like...
Triple H we trust.
Can you imagine, like, Super Cena? Like, just saying, I'm going to earn it, I'm going to be there, I'm going to scratch and claw my way to a 17th world title, and then just all of a sudden, like, you know, referee goes down and it's not his fault, and, like, he just pulls, like, a Daniel Bryan back in the day, and he just kicks Gunther in the gonads or something, and everybody goes, what? Wait a minute, did I just see that? And then he does it again. He does it again, and he just, like, suddenly just, like, pulls that bald spot back, and he just, like, starts going nuts. That would be pretty cool. That'd be a heck of a moment, but I don't think it'll happen. No. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I think if they were going to do it, it would have been like he would have just gone completely psychotic kind of thing, like what Bray Wyatt wanted him to do back in the day, or like what Kane wanted him to do. He would have just, like... slowly started just brain disintegrating, like he just does the complete opposite of everything he already is. But yeah, and I think he talked about that a couple times where like that's what they would have had to do. Like he would have just like been always running away, and like it just would have been like completely not himself. Right. But anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So who's your number 4 then?
My number 4 is a guy that they've kind of, you know, they've had a couple of matches before, but never a true rivalry, because they've always, at the time, they were always babyface versus babyface, but now this gentleman is very heel, and that is Finn Balor. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and certainly one of the most underutilized and underappreciated talents of all time, I think. Yeah. The fact that he has still been in WWE for this many years, and everyone just universally respects the guy. I don't know a single fan that goes, this guy sucks when they look at Finn Balor. Right. Even though he may lose 800 matches in a row. Now, it's not like he has, but
that's
he may.
JD McDonough.
That's that. Yeah, that's his Irish buddy over there that's losing that many matches. But I just would like, and this is just this is my list, right? So like the realism part of it may not really be there. That may be an Intercontinental Championship feud, I guess, or maybe Finn's the one who beats Cena for the world title if Cena wins it. I don't know.
I wouldn't complain about that.
Because let me tell you, now that I just thought about it, who wouldn't want to see, like, Cena win the 17th title, Finn challenges him, brings the Demon, beats Cena, and now Finn's got the world title, and you get that.
Finally, the Demon has the title.
And the Demon has the world. Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think Cena would probably eat that up, like, creatively. Oh, yeah. Like, he'd probably be like, are you kidding? I get to step in the ring with that? Like, that's completely different than anybody I've ever fought before. Yeah. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So now I'm fully convinced that that's how that should go. But regardless...
Let's get us to Triple H, everybody. Get us to Triple H.
Yeah.
Clip that and get it.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that would be fun. So, you know, Finn is the guy that I have at my number 4. And again, there's a lot of other reasons. Again, I just love Finn, and I think that they could even just build it on, like, respect, because Finn has been in the industry as long as Cena has. I know it doesn't seem like it, but he has. He has been wrestling since, I think, 2000. So, like, he's been in the industry just as long as Cena has. Yeah. So, you know,
that's crazy to think about that. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
My number 4, L.A. Knight.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I mean, I think some were wondering if we might see kind of that happen when they were kind of teaming together. I don't think I think you could kind of call back to that, but you don't have to. You know, I think what I'm thinking of is around the U.S. title as well. So I think you could do this early with him and LA Knight. I don't know if necessarily Cena would be the one to take it off, but kind of going back to, I don't know, I feel like later John Cena, the U.S. title was around him a lot. Yep. You know, and it's like, if there's a secondary title that's associated with him, it's the U.S. title. And always in the open challenges. I mean, you're more wrestling fiend than I am in a sense. I don't know if anybody else really always did like open challenges for a title before Cena. I don't know if that was kind of a thing that started with him that's kind of caught on here and there more.
Not the way Cena did it. So Cena was out doing it every week, and the opponents that he would face were guys that were under under showcased, like
right.
Dolph Ziggler, Cody Rhodes,
Yep.
Damian Sandow, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens.
That's the one I remember the most.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And so, guys like that were kind of under showcased were the guys that he was facing each and every week. And so nobody really did open challenges like that on a weekly basis. Now, I know people may not remember this, but Ricochet, when he was NXT North American champion, had several open challenges for his championship. That's how Tyler Breeze returned to NXT for a short time. I'm trying to remember if there was a I think in a Jushin Thunder Liger in NXT image in my head, but I'm not sure if that was against Ricochet or somebody else. But anyway, regardless, he did that a few times. I cannot really recall anyone doing weekly open challenges for their championships before Cena did. Could be completely wrong, but that's how I kind of remember it in my head. But yeah, I don't think anybody's done it quite like that.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm kind of thinking there. We put that on him for one more time. Give us a month of open challenges. Maybe Knight wins it back. He somehow makes sure it's like he is that last one. He even takes out like 3 other people before it's like get to the ring for this, and like LA Knight tries to come out every week to get the title back, and then finally he just bulldozes everybody that's trying to come out for it, and they finally gets back to him. But I think it could be fun. Again, offshoot, quick. A couple matches. I think Knight and Cena would just be excellent. Just the physicalness between the two of them, I think, would be amazing to watch in the ring. Knight is kind of like that old school and new school at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe we finally get the dummy button back with there or something. I feel like the promos would be so fun between those two.
Oh, they'd be great.
But yeah, no, LA Knight is my number 4.
Yeah, fantastic choice. Again, not on my list, but not because I wouldn't want to see it. It's just, you can only cram so many great rivalries into these lists, and, I have a lot of ideas for a lot of people that are not there. I'd love to see Andrade go. I'd love to see LA Knight go. Kevin Owens again, maybe. Like, there's all these people. There's so many that I have named, haven't named, but LA Knight's a great choice. Obviously, the promos would be fantastic. They already have a story between the two. The only thing that I am a little bit hesitant on is just right now, I don't like the thought of LA Knight having to work as the heel, and I think he would have to in that environment, because Cena, the character of LA Knight is brash, bold, obnoxious, arrogant. That all lends itself to being a heel if he needs to be. Cena's is humble, work hard, underdog, gonna fight for everything. Like, that'd be weird if Cena then was like, all right, I'm gonna put you in a headlock and taunt the crowd. Like, LA Knight could do that. That makes sense. So I just don't like the thought of him working heel right now, given how popular he is. But in a year, who the heck knows where we're going to be with that? He may turn heel while he's champ or something. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen. So that's a great choice.
And as a side note, we've always mentioned Logan Paul whenever he's had matches, and that Logan Paul LA Knight promo from SmackDown, that might have been Logan Paul's best work. I would agree. I think that's
fantastic.
He was spitting.
He was.
And was like, I don't like you doing well, but you're doing well. So good job, but I don't like you doing well.
I can't even remember what he said, but he ended it with who's pretending to be The Rock.
Yeah. And LA Knight was really quick right back. It's like, I haven't heard that one before. But yeah, he spit off like 6 or 7 just rapid fire, and it was just it flowed so well, and it's just like, because I mean. And I don't, someone might have helped him write that or whatever, but you still have to deliver that stuff.
Yep.
Whoever writes the promos or comes up with the promos, you still have to deliver it with conviction and straight face or whatever, whatever. But you still have to deliver it. And, his delivery just gets better every time out and out. And I can't wait. I can't wait for our 5-hour SummerSlam card.
I know. What really stinks is it's going to be I think it's still going to start at 8. I think it's still going to be like going to 1 in the morning. It's going to be ridiculous. But anyway,
that's not our topic tonight. Sorry.
No, it is not.
I think we're on number
3 for me.
Number 3, yeah.
Yep. So number 3, I think I think you got to do this match one more time, given how both of them are so much more beloved than they were when they had their rivalry to begin with, and that's Randy Orton. I think we got to get Cena versus Orton one more time. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of public cries of like, man, these guys, I mean, after their rivalry in 2014 when Daniel Bryan was basically the only reason anybody cared about the whole product, honestly, at that point, and your two guys that had your top belts were Cena and Orton, and everybody just hated it, and they did not want the two to wrestle again, and, I honestly thought after 2009 they'd never touch again, but after that I was certain. I'm like, there's no way WWE's ever going to make the mistake of putting these two in the same ring one-on-one again. Like, there's just no way. They're well past these guys are the top guys feeling, now they were obviously, but like nobody wanted them to be. But now, with everything Randy's been through, he's so much more beloved. And thank goodness he is, because he is so good, and everyone knows it, and yet he's still so supremely underrated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Cena, of course, has now gotten fully over the let's go Cena sucks. Everybody just loves him now. Yeah. We all understand that, he's not the one that writes the shows. He's just the guy that does what the company wanted him to do. Now, sometimes he did make poor choices with certain matches and certain ways he would beat people. But, we're all human. We all make mistakes. It's all good. Except Wade Barrett probably won't forgive you. But outside of that, everybody else is probably okay. I think at this point, with both of them being so beloved, I think now you definitely, especially with everyone knowing it's Cena's time to go, I think you got to do it one more time. And this doesn't need a story. This could just be like that Triple H versus Undertaker setup for the first WrestleMania where, Cena comes out to cut a promo, Randy's music hits, no one says a word, they both just look up at the sign, and there's a WrestleMania match. Or they both just look at each other and one of them just goes, SummerSlam? And then the other one nods and walks away, or just a tip of the cap, or whatever it is. Like, you
so
easily,
succinctly, so quickly, blink and you miss it almost, and it would be all we talked about. I mean, that's a WrestleMania Night 1 type match.
Sure.
Too, or a Night 2. That's one of the night's main events, easily right there.
Sure.
I think so much. And do you have any more to say there too? Because I have something else I wanted to throw, but I don't want to splash anything else.
I mean, not really. I mean, again, it's just more of the. I think they've got to do it one more time, so that you don't end on the misery of that ladder match. Right. That's the last time those two ever got in a ring together. I think that you certainly could do it again, and it doesn't even have to be for anything. It could just be because. Yeah. And that's one of the few rivalries that he has, other than the one that I'm going to talk about next, once you're obviously good with all your stuff, that it's like that you could just do it for nothing. And everybody's going to be like, yes, like that, So I'd love to see it. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Hey, we already mentioned him. Maybe he'll Joe Hendry himself and just.
The world would crumble.
You called? Yes.
Oh man, if Orton's on my list, but he's not later. But I'll say my thoughts on him now. I think you have to have. I agree with you. You don't have to have a story. The story I would do with them, I don't remember if I've said this to you on or off the podcast before or not. I would have Orton win the belt. That would be number 15 for him, right? I'd have Orton win the belt. And then that sets up, and then you could set that up where Cena comes after him. Cena gets the belt from him for his number 17. Then I think you do, and I think you would do. I would either like to do that at a Cena wins it at Mania, and then Orton wins it back like Backlash, or where Cena wins it at Money in the Bank, Orton wins it back at SummerSlam or something. That way you ratchet up 2 more notches for Orton, and then you could always pull that trigger of Orton over, an Orton tying Cena down the road if you really wanted to, or. Sure. Or at least getting Orton up that chart a little bit higher to give him respect too for when his his retirement comes, his last year or so in wrestling comes, like he's right there at or one below Cena right there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can prime him for his thank you too when that happens too. But again, I don't think you have to do the title. Or that's one of the opponents that Cena's like, I want that title, and he doesn't get it from Orton or something. Kind of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like he's going after championship title after title after title, and that he doesn't get, and you do it that way too. But again, yeah, you don't have to have a story behind that. I mean, I think that's almost another retirement match in Canada in the sense. I think because of their storied career. I mean, retirement matches I feel like are usually attempted to be putting someone over that's younger and stuff, but I feel like as storied as a rivalry, there's maybe one other person I would put that's like, this isn't a young guy that we want to put over, but because you two have such a storied history, we're giving you guys this, letting you retire him.
Yeah, and another story that I think you could do is not similar to what he did with The Fiend, because obviously that's its own novel.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can do like Cena loses a couple of matches to maybe get a spot at WrestleMania. And like, in a title match or something. Loses the Rumble, loses the Chamber, and he just goes, I guess I won't, this is my last WrestleMania, but I guess I'm not going to be wrestling at it. And then Randy comes out, and he's just like, well, come on, buddy. We can do it one more time,
yeah,
we'll figure it out. Like, and then that could be just,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be a cool story too. But regardless, either way, I think no matter if you do it for a championship, not a championship, have Orton catch up, have Orton not catch up.
This is almost a must-have.
It's a must-have. For sure. It's the first must-have for me of this entire thing outside of the Intercontinental title. Obviously, that was the biggest must-have for me. But yeah, I think it should be Orton. And I love who you have next because it's also who I have next.
My number 3 is CM Punk. And, oh my word, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm so glad that Punk's not cleared.
He is cleared.
He is cleared. I'm glad he's cleared now.
Oh, I thought you said you're so glad he's not cleared.
Oh no, now.
Oh, now cleared. Sorry. No,
I didn't give you a heart attack.
My ears don't work, guys.
Hey.
What? What? He's not cleared. What? He is cleared. What? He's not cleared. What? All right. We're leaving.
Oh man.
I think I'm dying. I don't know what's going on now.
Please don't.
I will try my best.
I find it very interesting that in 2011, 2012, when these two went at it, Punk dominated most of the matches, won most of the matches between the two in 11. Cena won the few that they had in 12. CM Punk won all 3 of their PLE events together, though.
He did.
But on the TV side, they're pretty much even. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just such a back-and-forth rivalry. And, again, Punk is so... I mean, Punk was beloved then, but I feel... And correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't really following... a whole early, but I wasn't really following wrestling a whole lot when Punk was in WWE. Kind of saw, like, the tail end and stuff, but... I feel like Punk is beloved for a lot different reasons than he was back 20 or 12 years ago. Am I? Yeah.
I mean, yes, you are right. He is beloved for much different reasons now. He's more beloved because he came home.
Yeah.
And back then, he was beloved because he was ahead of his time. I think if he was born 8 years after he was born, he would have been a 15-time world champion in WWE. He would have been the number 1 guy. He would, because he was just the way he cut promos, the way he carried himself, the tattoos, that's all new age stuff. The way he wrestled, all the strikes and the kicks, that's all new age stuff. It wasn't happening a lot back in 2009, 10, 11, 12. Now, eventually it became undeniable that he was head and shoulders above most, if everybody, if not everybody, in the company wrestling-wise, and on the mic, and even at commentary, as he likes to say. Right? So, like, he was so good that they eventually had to be like, all right, have the belt. But they never took it seriously. Yeah. And so, true fans were sitting there going like, but that guy's really good. Like, why are you not seeing what we're all seeing here? Right. And it was just a symptom of the disease that was Vince McMahon's 2010s WWE, in which he did not listen to the fans. He did not care.
Right. Well, about putting the best product out. Punk was kind of the villain to Cena's hero, like where
Oh yeah, he was the Joker to Batman, or
Cena was the company face, and Punk was like, no, I'm the Anarchy, and I love being the Anarchy, and people love that, and they loved it more because Vince and others weren't embracing it, and and I think I get that more now, and I think that's why I'm so much of a fan of him now, because he still has some of that, but it's just thanks for putting that phrase together. I haven't been able to put that thought together for the last couple of days. Like, I don't know why I like that he's here, because one of our first podcasts that we did together was like, I pretty much said, I don't want Punk back.
No, and
But that was knowing parts of the story, which we'll never hear the full story of him in AEW. But I think the fact that he's being home, and we know that Triple H embraced him, and obviously the great feuds we're getting right now. We're basically, that was Drew before we even got to Rollins, for one thing, which is even better. And now Rollins is all of a sudden sprinkled in. But, knowing what we have with Punk now, knowing what Cena's like now, and seeing them, because they were so opposite back in the day, to where, I think you could still call back to that too now. And I feel like this is almost, I don't know if this is a must-have, but it would be wonderful to get a, from like an Elimination Chamber to Mania, or maybe more of like a Money in the Bank to SummerSlam, small story, or something to where it's like we get there on both PLEs. It's not for anything on the line or anything. It's just, maybe a one-off. I don't know. It'd be great promos. And I think, I gotta imagine if fans are clamoring for Orton Cena, they're probably clamoring for Punk Cena just as much, if not more so.
Yeah, and I think all the AEW stuff, I think a lot of it was the spin that things were put on it, that we all kind of heard, which was, Punk was the instigator of everything, and Punk was a monster, and Punk was, had the attitude problems, and so it kind of made everything look like, well, he hasn't changed. It's been a decade. He's in his 40s now, and he's still acting like the 27-year-old that had the chip on his shoulder that thought he was the best in the world, and he doesn't understand. At this point in your career, man, you don't have to be the number one guy, and you don't have to act like the number one guy. No matter how popular you are and how much money you make. But after kind of hearing the interviews that he's done since, and kind of seeing where AEW has gone since, and how they've handled it, which has just been so bad. It's kind of like he's told the truth about it. Like, he literally did an Ariel Helwani 2-hour interview, talked about the whole thing, and then 6 weeks later, AEW was like, we're gonna release the footage, and literally all of the things that CM Punk said happened on the video. He did not now. Granted, could there have been minor things that were offshore, but we will never know because we couldn't hear it. It was just pure video, but literally the way he described it is exactly what happened. It made sense. So it's okay, well, who's really the bad guy in these situations? Could things have been handled differently? Of course, but, for me, I always was hoping that Punk would come back, but it was the attitude that was the problem. If he was going to come in and think, I need to main event WrestleMania, I need to win the world title, I need to be treated like the number one guy and paid like the number one guy, and if I'm not, I'm going to cause you hell, then we were going to have a lot of problems. But he's come in and he has not done that at all, and that is exactly what WWE needed. You needed a CM Punk that is motivated to actually be a part of the team, and that is, there's nobody that I would rather have in the foxhole of WWE right now than the guy we're getting in CM Punk.
Right. And what's interesting, too, is, he probably would have been night one main event with Rollins or someone.
Yep.
based on that documentary that was finally released, that sounds like he was going to be the main event of WrestleMania. But the fact that he took that unfortunate injury and turned it to what we have right now goes back to what you're just saying about team player. And I mean, I think again, the dynamic would be different between the two, but I think there'd still be some of the same to where it's like, they would just give each other a hack in a match.
And he said, he was miserable in AEW because they didn't want to make money. He thought he was there to, put on good matches, sell merch, and make money and draw ratings. And he, at least according to him, obviously this is completely unfounded, but they didn't care about any of that. They just wanted, good locker room chemistry, and everybody just had this idea in their heads that he was going to ruin that for everybody, and so they treated him that way. And he just came out and made some comments like he wants to stay in WWE forever, and I hope he does. I hope if this is the CM Punk we're going to get, I hope he does stay forever.
Yeah.
But again, at this point, it's one strike and he's out. Like, he does not get 3; he gets 1. Like, if he starts acting up,
I'm sure him and H have had that discussion, and I'm sure he laid ground rules, and obviously Punk said, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah,
and I mean, It's been a wonderful ride since.
It sure has.
Oh, again. SummerSlam. That's gonna be a wonderful SummerSlam for 5 hours, 7 hours. SummerSlam.
It's gonna be great. 19 hours. I'll still be there. I'll watch it. Well, obviously, so I mentioned his next person was my next person. Since we talked about CM Punk this whole time, there's no reason for me to go into it any further. CM Punk is my number 2, so that'll update on the list. Who is your number 2?
AJ Styles.
Hey man,
phenomenal AJ Styles, who we haven't actually seen for a little bit. I was just thinking about the other day, but.
Correct. Not since he lost to Cody.
But I know he was also in Japan working with another promotion. I forget the name of the promotion. I think that's kind of why we haven't seen him, because he was, which I think is really
Dragon's
cool.
Gate? Is that where he's at?
I don't want to say something and be wrong, so I don't know.
Really
sure, I wouldn't be. You're probably right. My first thought was, I think we need a rubber match. They technically 2-2 in these matches, or 2-2 between the matches with them. I think Cena gets a little bit of edge because he wanted to, he did beat him for a title. But Styles did beat him twice on PLEs.
Kind of. I mean, he beat him with cheating the first time.
Yeah, but wins a win.
A win's a win. Fair enough.
For a heel, Styles.
And Cena beat AJ in a tag match. And another one, so that doesn't, you could say you can realistically say it's 1-1-1. You can realistically say
okay.
So either way,
I'm looking at just straight 1-on-1 matches.
Yeah.
Either way, I think it's almost, to me, this is another must-have for me. Just because of the thunder they brought. I don't know if this is really the turning point, but I feel like this might have been the turning point of the slowing down of the. Let's go Cena suck chants.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that crowd was always so good for these two.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just such good. And I feel like, they're both good power wrestlers, but they're both good technical wrestlers. And submissions, they both have good submissions and everything, where it's like, they know each other well. Cena's obviously still in really good shape. Styles has jacked himself up again a little, and so I'm just like, oh, please give me these two one more. Just give me one more between these two.
Mm-hmm.
I would just enjoy it. I loved their small series. I think that's, again, one of the things that got me back into wrestling was their series of matches. That's where I kind of found out about AJ Styles, because I didn't really know who he was. And I'm just like, the face runs the place, phenomenal one. I've always enjoyed seeing him wrestle since. So that would just tickle me, just to have these two go at it one more time.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier in my honorable mentions. Obviously, it would be great to see it again. I just simply have preferences over that personally, but again, wouldn't hate it at all. And for me, kind of thinking back to 2016 when they were in this rivalry, I mean, obviously AJ debuts at the Rumble, or at least debuts for WWE at the Rumble.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think if you polled 1,000 wrestling fans from all over the place, you would instantly be able to tell who watched TNA and who didn't if you just asked them, who is the best wrestler on Earth? Anybody who did not watch TNA would have probably said John Cena, and anybody who did watch TNA would have probably said AJ Styles. Because if you watched both WWE and TNA, you knew that AJ Styles was head and shoulders technically in the ring above just about anybody on Earth at that point. He was so good in that like 2013 to 2015 run in TNA that you just like you just knew like, my God, if he ever went to WWE, I mean, this has to be the guy that bucks the trend. This has to be the guy that they don't change his name. They let him do whatever he wants. They let him do all of his merch. They keep the nickname. Like, you can't bring him in as BJ Paintings. Like, you can't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't.
Yeah, you can't change this guy's name.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, he's AJ Styles, and if imagine if he debuted at the Rumble and his name was like BJ Swifty or like something like the worst.
I never even thought about that too. It's like he's one of probably the few guys that came from, or maybe Finn as well. But he's
no, Finn was Devitt. Prince Devitt.
That's right.
In Japan.
But so
the only other guy that I could think of was Samoa Joe.
Yeah, he's one of the few that actually got to keep his name from other, that he used in other promotions because he was in New Japan as well. It's and
Nakamura was another one.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't.
So I mean that they knew what they had, and they're like, yeah, sure, just sign it out of line, we're good.
Yeah, and so when they touched, like when they got in the ring, I mean, it was just electric. And I think, I mean, I have a lot of things that I can say about this, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. It was one of those moments where we knew eventually WWE was going to do it. We knew eventually, before Cena's prime was over, with AJ in the company, they had to do AJ versus Cena. I mean, it would be a crime against humanity if you didn't. And even Vince knew that, which thank God, because he didn't know a whole lot at this point. And like, I'm pretty sure somebody probably was like, Vince, if you don't do AJ versus Cena, I'm pretty sure we will be kicked off the air. Like, at this point, they'll be like, why are you so stupid?
It writes itself.
Yeah, exactly. So,
maybe that was a condition of Styles.
Could have been. But at the same time, it was like okay, I understand that he's Super Cena. I understand that he has never lost a rivalry and he never will lose a rivalry for his whole life, his whole career, since 2005 when he beat JBL. It's just been dub, all the way down the dang hill. For his whole career, he's never lost a rivalry. He may lose a match, but he'll win the war like every time. But I swear on everything I love, and this is collectively as a fan base we're saying this, if you feed AJ Styles to him, there's no hope for anyone else. No. This is a man that has, again, if you watched TNA, you knew he was the best wrestler on planet Earth. Before Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay kind of came along and took those crowns, and then obviously now you got Roman and Seth and MJF and all that.
But yeah, at the time.
At the time, it was AJ. Yep. And so we were like, please, God in heaven, don't let Vince mess this man up. Like, this is the one that we will not tolerate. Yep. Like, you can screw up Kevin Owens, you can screw up Samoa Joe, you can screw up anybody else, but if you screw up AJ, like, this is an unforgivable sin. And thank God, it was the first time in Cena's career that he ever had a series of matches with somebody since 2005, multiple times, and he lost that rivalry. AJ beat him twice. And the second time, clean as a whistle. Yep. Like, no interference, no shenanigans, clean as a whistle at SummerSlam, that's it. So, and it was like one of those things where you're like, oh God, they actually did it. Like, they finally put they hitched their wagon to somebody else. And so that's why for me, I've already got all the memories. I'm good. Right. But for somebody that obviously kind of was like, that was their first kind of taste of AJ, maybe, or at least some of the first taste. That you may want more. And that makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't hate to see it again. I just don't think it's going to live up to what I've already seen. And so to me, that would be a bit of a shame.
And I think a fun wrinkle you could almost even do is pull in a NXT. You got the TNA NXT rivalry here. maybe put each of these guys in the corner. Put Styles in the corner of a TNA guy, and put Cena in the corner of an NXT guy, and and that you could have endless possibilities.
Yeah,
there. I think that as an added wrinkle to what you said. Yeah, I mean it's almost would be hard to live up to the hype of what we got in 2016, but I think they can do it. Again, they're just both great wrestlers.
Yeah,
and promos, and I mean Styles is just. I will say too, TNA short haircut Styles is so weird to see whenever I see old videos.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
Short haircut AJ was a menace, dude.
Give me the farmer AJ Styles. That's what I like to call him. This looks like a redneck farmer, buddy.
When he first came in there, you called it a soccer mom haircut. Soccer mom AJ. We'll take soccer mom AJ.
Yeah, and it's and a quick aside too. One of the things I've always been, I think, endeared me to Styles afterwards was that Styles Lesnar match. That was it's like, wow, smaller guys are such a fun foil for Brock Lesnar, and it's like
2 years in a row they did AJ and Daniel Bryan. Fantastic. Yeah. 2 of Brock Lesnar's best matches of his career. Yeah. Excellent stuff.
Always. So yeah, I really hope. To me, I think you almost have it's a must have. If you do a series of if you do just a bunch of one-offs, you have to put that in that one-off category.
Yeah. All right. We're at the end. Both of our number 1 picks here. I'm sure that they're going to be different. So this is going to be obviously fun to kind of figure out, you kind of navigate this here. So my number 1, and this is going to be a tough one to book because it could very easily turn into just a bloodbath of very large man beating up very old man. But Gunther. I think that in general, look, there's a lot of things that I want to say. I'm going to try my best to keep it as brief as possible. I am going crazy here, but I think that the person who should dethrone Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship is John Cena. Now, if you'd have said that to me 3 years ago, I'd have punched you so hard. But here's the thing. At this point in John Cena's career, I think if he beats anyone in any way, shape, or form, people are going to make an argument that they're burying whoever he beats. Unless it's a Randy Orton or an AJ Styles or CM Punk or somebody like that.
Yeah.
I think that regardless of who you put in the ring, if he wins, they're going to be like, oh, they buried this guy, this poor kid's dead, or who. Like, listen.
You ain't going to do that.
If you watch Gunther and you think that losing a match is going to just kill his career, I think that that's just the stupidest thing you could possibly say. And I think that if you tell the story of Cena loses and loses and loses, and he finds himself in a number 1 contenders match for Gunther's world title, and he's just lost a whole lot, and he somehow finds a way to pull this match out. And everybody on planet Earth goes, oh, Gunther's going to kill him. Like, he is way too old and way too fragile to be getting in there with that machine. And Super Cena comes out one last time, and he somehow just grits his way to a win and gets Gunther to tap. I think the pop that you would get would be just deafening, and it would be such a cool story. And then maybe, you have Gunther, just win it back, a couple months later, or, whatever it may be. I know I talked a little bit earlier about, Karrion Kross beating him for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't think I'd have him do that for the world title, but you can make a story where, maybe Orton beats Cena for the title, or anybody else that you want to kind of pick there. So, I think that you could do it that way, or if you don't want to have Cena win the world title from Gunther, which I'm sure that's fine. People don't want that. That makes sense. No worries. What is Gunther's purpose in wrestling? His purpose is to keep the ring sacred, to make it about wrestling. For 20 years, there's been a man that's been wrestling, and has been wrestling at the top of the card that universally people have said sucks at the actual wrestling part of it. He does 5 moves, and he kills everyone. If anyone can make the argument that one individual ruined wrestling, Gunther can make that argument to John Cena. Mm-hmm. You are the reason why this sport stinks. You are the reason why I have to be here to fix this. This is your mess that you caused and no one else has been able to fix it. I'm going to fix it. And the first step in getting rid of an infestation of hornets is killing the queen. You're the queen. Like, you could just do that. Just say Gunther's like, oh no, that's like the number one guy that I hate, making a mockery of this great sport, as he would put, right? So I mean, you wear wristbands and colorful T-shirts, fruity pebbles, yabba yabba, right? Like, that would make total sense for Gunther's character to do that.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do a championship match, great. Easy story right there, where there doesn't have to be a title. It's just Gunther wants to kill John Cena. And obviously, I think in that case, you wouldn't have Cena win, clearly. But, if it's for the title, I'd like to see Cena just super Cena one last time and somehow find a way, and then maybe a month later, Gunther actually kills him, and you're not literally. That didn't come out right. But, just beats him.
Yeah. Another retirement match candidate.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I think it's I like that, honestly. It's a, because it'd be one guy that wouldn't hurt to lose to him, but you could tell a wonderful story of building Gunther up even more if Gunther just beat him and beat him down, not just beat him in the ring, just beat him down. I kind of like the idea too. I think there's so many possibilities between the two, and I like one of your first ideas too of just having it to where, he does actually overcome Gunther, but a month later at the next PLE, 3 weeks later the next PLE, the title's back in Gunther. He's like, I ain't losing to you again. We're going again.
Yep. Yeah,
we're going again.
I think it just makes too much sense for Cena's character to not have to face some indomitable force.
Yeah.
And it just makes too much sense for Gunther's character to not want to destroy John Cena and everything he stands for. Look at what he's doing with Damian Priest. Like, I sat there and I'm like, how are they going to turn Damian Priest babyface in 20 minutes? Well, just call him street trash for your entire promo and say that being on the street is a choice, which, oh boy, is that a controversial statement. Like, there were people that were saying that it was a racist promo. They just...
Wow, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah. They were like, it's kind of, what I feel like nowadays, whenever a European or white individual calls a minority person street trash, there's going to be racial undertones that are attached to that, regardless of whether they should be there or not. So it made sense to me. Like, that's kind of what my first thought was like, not even that I thought it was racist, but more just that other people would think it was racist. It kind of was what I was going with. But anyway, regardless of that, like, it just makes too much sense to me for that to not be a thing. And I think it'd be a waste. Like, he's your modern day Brock Lesnar. Like, he is your current day, I'm going to kill everyone, and Cena is next on my hit list, and that's it.
Yeah. You're retiring? Well, let's get rid of you early. You want to finish out this whole year? Let's get rid of you early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It certainly, and that's easily like a 4.5, 5-star match if Cena can. The only problem is, again, like I said at the beginning, this could easily just become a very large man beating up old man.
Yeah.
If Cena can't physically go enough to be that Super Cena for 20 minutes, like, he'd have to train hard. He'd have to really go for it. But I think that he could. I think that he could do it. I believe it. Whether I should or not, I do. But yeah, that's my. And I already know what your number one is here, because you've kind of mentioned it earlier and we haven't gotten to it, and we talked about it extensively, but I want to give you your flowers here in terms of what your number one is.
My number one is Randy Orton. I just think that's one of the biggest rivalries that WWE's had in the last 20 years. And I go back to what we were saying earlier about Orton just being so beloved now.
Yeah.
Because I would say that there's a lot of times where Randy Orton had the title and the ratings probably weren't that great.
whether it was his fault or not, right?
Yeah. A lot of times when we're ordering the title, I know at least I know some people that have held that belief where it's like ratings just weren't good when he had the title, and we're looking at such a different Orton now. Don't necessarily put a title picture, and I think, we're even talking about possibly turning Orton heel against Cody, which may or may not happen. I don't know, but the way crowds, especially the international crowds, sing his song, like that Backlash entrance, that might be better than Jey Uso's entrance.
I don't know about that.
J1A, Orton 1B though.
Yeah,
just the way the crowd reacted to him there, and I don't think it's reacted as quite as strongly as Jay's and subsequent PLEs, but it's up there. It's like, who sang his song before then? Nobody really sang. The crowd didn't really sing his song. All of a sudden, the crowds are just insane now. Wrestling is much more
wrestling is so hot right now.
So cool and so much cooler now. Thank you, Triple H.
Yep.
Which could have taken over sooner, but it's okay.
Well, Vince still said it the last time he was in WWE. He was like, "Yeah, wrestling is getting stale." And it had been breaking records for like 6 straight months of like viewership and PLE sales and merch sales and record profits quarter over quarter and live event sales. And he was like, "Yeah, it's getting stale." And we're like, "Oh, dude, I think you're getting stale." As in like physically. Like I'm pretty sure like you're starting to stink. Like you smell like milk, man. Like just
I think everybody else felt that too.
Oh my god, like it's just so stupid. So but anyway, no, I fully 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and I think back to what you were saying about these two. I almost would like, while it'd be fun, I think it'd be fun to like book the title around the two of them. One of the titles, but right now the Universal title, not Universal title anymore, Undisputed Championship is what we're calling it now.
Yep.
Right. Would be fun to book that. I don't think you necessarily have to. I almost think it would be fun for Cena to be out cutting a promo after Rumble, talking about his failings. Orton comes out and says, "Let's go, man!" And there's our night one.
Mm-hmm.
Night one main event.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah,
and that's what I talked about earlier. It's
I like your idea there.
Yeah, it's not the number one on my list just because I think the Gunther thing makes too much sense, and obviously I just am a bigger fan of Punk, but. If I had to do a must, that's the one must.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I had to pick like one that I absolutely 100% had to see again, other than the IC title, to me that is the must. But it's gonna be Randy at this point. So I'm 100% with you. I do not mind that being number one for you at all. I think obviously if I wasn't just such a big fan of Gunther and Punk, I would put it probably at my number one.
I kind of wish I would have thought of Gunther here. And again, we could probably find 10 more guys on all the rosters.
We could go for another 2 hours of guys we'd like to see him fight.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think it's good. One quick question for you.
Bring it.
Cause I have no idea how I would answer this.
Okay. Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Would you rather see Cena win number 17 or win the IC title?
Win the IC title. I think that the World Championship is so sacred in my head that you run the risk if you do have him win it, if you don't tell the story right, of it just being ceremonial and not having it mean anything. Like,
yep.
This is going to be a weird comparison because it's not quite the same. But are you aware of the gentleman named Michael Strahan? Yes. Michael Strahan. Okay. Those of you who don't know who that is, because obviously there may not be a bunch of football fans watching this particular episode. He was a edge rusher, defensive lineman, linebacker, whatever position you wanted to call him, for the New York Giants in the 2000s and 2010s, early 2010s. He broke the single season sack record. It's in the record books.
That's right. Yep.
It is in the record books. I think it's been tied now, but at the time he broke the single season sack record. Okay? Unfortunately, the last sack that he got, he had a free run to Brett Favre, and Brett Favre laid down. Now, I personally don't give a crap about that, but unfortunately,
I even blocked this out. That's why I forgot about this.
Fair enough. The theory, you're a Packers fan, right? So, the theory goes that Brett Favre saw Michael Strahan coming, McMahon went, nah, the heck with it. That's fine. I'll just go down. Made it easy for him. And again, to me, who cares? Like, he probably would have got in anyway. So, well, who cares? But at the same time, that's what people are going to talk about. There's some people, anyway,
right,
are going to just say, oh, he didn't earn it because it was just ceremonial because Brett Favre just handed it to him. You run the risk of, if you do it just to do it, of people going, he didn't even earn this. He did just, they Jinder Mahal'd him to the title where he lost 18,000 matches in a row. And then they were like, he's #1 contender on Twitter, and I'm just going to announce it that way. And then do. Like, it's just not, you really run the risk of that. I think that with the IC title, Cena can go after that humbly.
Yep.
He can continue to call it the workhorse championship of the company because that's what it is.
Yep. And
beat, Dragunov, Sami Zayn, Braun Breaker, whoever else you have at that point in that, Chad Gable, whoever you want, right?
Yeah.
And that is a great, fun, not main event match of a pay-per-view that you can do, that Cena can win. It doesn't bury a championship. It doesn't bury a wrestler, hopefully, that loses to him. Right. And it gives him something that he's the greatest of all time, and he's not a Grand Slam champion.
Right.
Seth Rollins is a 2-time Grand Slam champion.
And Miz.
Which means he's gone around and done all those things multiple times.
Yep.
So, and the Miz is one. Finn Balor.
He should be on our list.
Finn Balor is a Grand Slam champion. Because he won the world title for one day.
That's right.
Like, this is an accolade that obviously is a bit overplayed sometimes, but it's still an accolade that the greatest of all time should have and doesn't have.
And I think, and honestly, I think you actually convinced me. I think I'd almost would rather see.
Well, that wasn't my goal.
I know, but I mean, I've been on the fence ever since it's announced it. It's like 17 would be cool, but that whole time with Flair thing is such murky because Flair claims he still has more because of whatever. I don't care to get into that right now. But yeah, the IC title is like that elusive one to where, why doesn't he have it? Then he can truly be the GOAT. Then he can truly be put in that GOAT. Or there would be more people I think to be willing to put him in that GOAT category if he is a Grand Slam champion. Which I can't, again, I don't know the numbers, but I mean, I gotta imagine we can probably count on both hands how many Grand Slam champions there probably are.
I think there's a little bit more now, because like you've got obviously, I think is Randy Orton won? Did he win the IC title at one point? Yeah, he did when he was young. So yeah, he is. Mm-hmm. But most of the Hall of Famers that like we think of, like Bret Hart, Rock, Austin. Like, a lot of these, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, like, all these guys are Grand Slam champions.
Right.
And so, to really kind of put, Roman Reigns, obviously, Seth Rollins, obviously. There's guys that aren't in the company anymore that are Grand Slam champion. Dean Ambrose. No. Everybody was like, oh, they wasted his potential. Well, he's a Grand Slam champion, and John Cena's not. So, it's, like,
it almost seems more egregious than an IC champion. Mm-hmm. I think that going to workhorse mentality, I'm trying to kind of merge some of our ideas here, but going to that workhorse mentality, I think that would be fun to see him go after title after title, or not even go after title, but just have match come up short, throw a couple title matches in there, and it's like, that is the one elusive one I don't have and I want to have, and then start building, then you could do so many different things. I think you could pull it out, you could start something at a chamber, have him win at Money in the Bank because for whatever reason that seems to be the PLE that he loves out of most of them.
Yep. And by the way, if you guys hate the thought of Karrion Kross being Intercontinental Champion, I get it. So I have an alternative for you. The person who may...
I'm scared.
No, you'll like this one. Person who may beat John Cena for the IC title is another fella who hasn't won the IC title, and that's Sheamus.
Yeah, which is a shame.
This. All right. So we did not plan that. I don't know how that happened, but we'll take it. But yeah, no, that could be a thing as well. But I think regardless of what happens, regardless of everything, there's everything that we talked about today. Obviously, I said the IC title is a must. Let's take all that away. I think the one thing that you and I can definitely agree on is the one thing that we really need is Cena to just be healthy.
Yes.
The biggest shame of all of this. Yeah, the biggest shame. I'm gonna knock on the floor. The biggest.
Knocked on the chair too.
I could have. But the biggest shame of all would be Cena wanting to give his all, and he gets injured. And, then he's out for the whole year. And then
would you delay it a year? Would you?
I don't think you
try it in 26 if he did get hurt?
I don't think so. So I think that the number one thing, the number one rivalry that we need to see John Cena conquer
is health.
Is his health. And not to say that he's unhealthy.
We've seen him come from stuff, I mean, obviously probably steroids and stuff, but we've seen him come from injuries. I specifically remember his shoulder. He was supposed to be out for months. He was out back in like 2 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Turned out a rumble.
Yeah, the pec tore his pec, and he was supposed to be out for 9 months, and he came back in like 3.5. Yeah. And we were all like, "What?" Like, it was pretty nuts. But I mean, even at that point, I was 12, and I was even starting to get tired of Cena. And I was like, "Okay. That's enough. Like this is getting ridiculous. Like to the point where it's kind of being a parody. But regardless, we're well past that now. I'm excited for what they're going to do. Obviously, we've done multiple videos on this now, and I'm sure we're going to continue to cover this in the future.
I have one more big idea, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, I like it. Well, that's going to do it, guys. What do you guys think? Which one of these lists that you're seeing on either side of us right now is the list that you would go with? Probably Dan's because he does not have Karrion Kross on it. So but let us know in the comments.
It's a true list. We don't have to worry about the honorable mention. It's a true list.
Yeah, and obviously, if you guys have a list, put it in the comment section. Let us know your top
Miz
5
on there.
Yeah, we could have put the Miz, but
yeah. But still,
I mean, who would you put him over? On your list. Yeah, exactly. It's the top 5. Some people just have to not make it. That's just how it goes.
I guess I should have put him over the Rock on my honorable mentions. That's what I should have done.
I mean, hey, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. That'd be the one time that somebody did put the Miz over the Rock, so that would work. But that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so very much for watching, and we will see you all next time.